Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hello and welcome to another episode of Live Recon on Recon Sunday. Chat, if you're live here, let me know if you can hear me okay. I know last week we had some problems with audio, but let me know if you can hear me okay. If this is your first time watching live, if you're watching on YouTube, Live Recon is a interview show where I bring on people in the community, especially in bug bounties, and I interview them, get to know them a little bit, and I get to ask them how they got started, what resources they use, what's the recommendation for other people. The point of the show is to humanize hackers and to show we're all in this together, and we're doing some awesome stuff together. Quick announcements before we bring on the TheXSSRat. If you're around next Saturday, I'm going to put the announcement up on the screen. But if you're around, you're watching this live, I am hosting HacktivityCon 2021 next Saturday. So 6 days from today, I'll be hosting HacktivityCon on the HackerOne channel. I'll be also raiding into the channel once we go live. So whether you follow me or follow them, you'll be able to watch it. Come hang out with us. There is a lineup of amazing talks. Very, very cool people talking there. I know Shubs is going to be there. Def Param, Vicky Lee, a bunch of other people. I can't think of everybody right now. Red Team Village is hosting 2 tracks. They have some really amazing workshops coming out. That's also going to be on Twitch. So yeah, come hang out with us. I will see you all there. I see the hype train. Thank you so much, Ash Fox, for the 25 months. Dude, I can't believe it's been 2 years, 25 months. Thank you so much, Ash. I appreciate you. Greg and Austin, thank you so much. Rickard, resubbed. Aditya, thank you for that. Travis M26, thank you so much for that sub. I appreciate you guys so much. What other announcements do I have? If you are trying to get your hands on the course, I have just go to this link. It's at the bottom of the page. It's $12.99 right now. If you're watching this on YouTube later, I think the code is going to still work. Just go to the bugbounty.nahamsec.training link, and it will take you right to it. All right, chat. Who's here? Mello, thank you so much for that Twitch sub. I appreciate you so much. Who's all in here? Chat. Can I get everybody to say hello? Can we get the chat hyped up before I bring on our guests for this evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you're from? What's up, Rennie? What's up, Hacker? How you doing, bud? What's up, Will Bamer? What's up, Mello? What's up, OX Melker? How you doing? What's up, Siavash? What's up, Travis? I'm losing my voice. So if you guys hear me go on mute, just to clear my throat. I thought getting some coffee would help, but that was not helpful. What's up, Zeremias? How you doing? Alex, how you doing? All right, chat. Are you ready for the TheXSSRat? Should we bring him on? I don't think you guys are ready. What's up, WizPig? Love from India. Love you too, India. All right, hold on. I gotta do one more thing. Mods, can we make sure we are in science and tech if any of the mods are around, Joe or Security? The thing I hate about StreamYard is I can't ever change the science and tech category stuff on here. It's annoying. It's putting me in like talks and podcast. I got it. Science and tech. Here we go. All right. That's it. Let's bring on, excuse me, the TheXSSRat, and let's start our interview. Hey, dude. How you doing?
Hey, what's up, man? Great being here.
How's it going?
Going good. How are you doing?
Not bad. I'm losing my voice a little bit, but I can't complain.
Yeah, me too. I heard you talking about coughing before, and I was like, yeah, same thing. I have my coffee here, but it's not helping. Hope my Red Bull helps a little bit. But
so for people that aren't familiar with your work, tell us who you are, how long have you been doing what you're doing, and how long have you been hacking for?
all right, so my name is TheXSSRat. I'm mostly on YouTube, where I try and just throw things out that I learned myself. That's basically where I spent most of my days uploading. I myself, I started out in hacking basically because I wanted to show myself, in a sense that I wanted to have a pen test job. I didn't want to stay in my QA job anymore. but everybody was like, you got to have a certificate. So I was like, okay, what do I go for? Certified ethical hacker? Do I go for OSCP? So I got my OSCP. Everybody recommended that, and that's basically how I got started. OSCP was my gateway into hacking, as I like to call it. So from there on out, I wasn't able to get a job still. Everybody was still like, you need experience for this. So then I was like, okay, if everybody needs me to grab experience, that's fine. Then I'll just go and do bug bounties.
Yeah.
And I was completely mistaken. I was like, oh, this is going to be easy. I'm going to find bugs left and right when I got started, because I was used to pen testers internally at our company. And of course, they report a lot of bugs because they're next to it. It's obvious. But when you're doing bug bounties, it's a whole different thing, of course. So I failed miserably. Then I actually found my first cross-site scripting. Went into IDOR heavily after that, broken access control. And then now I'm at a point where I could get a pen testing job, but I don't really want one anymore. If I'm with all of this hacking, it's not something that I'm. The thing with pen testing is it's really interesting. It's a really interesting field to get into. But if I would have to do this for a day job, I wouldn't be enjoying it as much as just doing it in my free time, you know.
Right.
So yeah,
So
that's a little bit for me.
how did you hear about hacking? What was it that, because you said your first gateway into hacking was your OSCP, but how did you hear about, pen testing being a thing and possibly a job for you to make money from?
Well, it all started out being as a QA engineer. I got into contact with, well, I started out as a low-level QA engineer, grew my way up to a team lead, and of course, that also means dealing with the pen testers in the company and getting to know their work. I was amazed at what they did. Of course, I knew hacking from before then already, because every programmer needs to know at least a little bit of hacking, in my opinion. But that was all just very surface level stuff, like, oh, I knew what a cross-site scripting was. I've heard of it, but never did it before,
Yeah. How did you hear about bug bounties?
For me, it was basically my way to prove myself a little bit, to show that I could do what I was, to show that what was inside matched the label on the package. Because I wanted to present myself to companies as somebody who could do pen testing, but nobody ever wanted to hire somebody who wasn't experienced, who wasn't working for a pen testing company, because
Yeah.
I was not completely a freelancer, but like a contractor at the time. So yeah,
But how
nobody
did you hear
wants.
about what was it that, like, was it in the news you heard about bug bounties? Was it at work? Was it that you just saw people tweeting about bug bounties?
I think mostly in the news, there was this Facebook hack. Somebody from Facebook got like $10,000-15,000 a bug
Yeah.
bounty, and it was in the news a few years ago here. I was like, what? Well, not a few years, actually a few months. Sorry, that's what I mean. And I was like, wow, that much money to be made in bug bounties. That's something really cool, and really something that I would like as well, of course, in the beginning, but that mindset quickly changed.
Okay. You said you mentioned, when you first started, you you got your OSCP, you were thinking about it, CEH, other, certificates. Before we get into the certificates, did you go to school? Did you go to like a university and study for anything cybersecurity related or computer related, for that matter?
Well, not really cybersecurity related, but my degree is in networks. I got a bachelor degree in systems and networks engineering.
Okay. Did that
So
help you at all with your hacking?
yeah, definitely. That's also where I got my first little touch of hacking, I should say.
Yeah.
They taught us about like the security of Wi-Fi and the different types of Wi-Fi and all of the basic stuff.
Okay.
But also, so sorry, can you repeat your question again,
No,
please?
I just want to ask if you went to school and if it's helped you with
Oh,
your
yeah, right.
work. Do you recommend people to go to? What's your take on school and going to university for computer science and cybersecurity? Do you think it's a requirement, or truly think that people could do and learn the things that you learn in the university for computer science on their own?
I think it's helpful if you get a degree in anything IT related in general, but in
Yeah,
cybersecurity related, I think the field is just too broad of a field and it's also too fast evolving. Because the things that I learned a few years ago, they're no longer applicable at all these days. They used to teach me that that SMS multi-factor authentication was something super secure. Turns out that's something no longer the case either anyway. So
yeah.
yes, things evolve super fast, and I just don't think they can teach you that at school, you know.
So you said you have your OSCP, and that was like your entry to hacking. What's your take on certificates? If somebody wants to go from, IT, networking, whatever they're coming from, whatever their background is, right? And they want to jump into cybersecurity, especially in hacking, offensive security. Do you recommend going straight to an OSCP, or now knowing the things that you know, do you think there are other things that you should do first before jumping into, um, OSCP?
What's really important for me, or what I would recommend myself there, is that to build some more general IT experience is always super helpful before going into those kinds of certificates, because they do require you to have some broad knowledge of how all of these aspects of IT work and how they connect with each other.
Yeah.
And people have asked me, like, is there anything that I need to do to prepare for OSCP? But I think they basically teach you everything you need to know in the courses themselves. It's just about being able to learn the things, like somebody from complete zero knowledge going to OSCP. I think he could just go in and take the course if he's determined enough and if he's hardworking enough. Even if he has no general IT experience at all, they basically teach you all of the things, but it's just that you need to learn and look them up for yourselves. It's like, okay, I don't understand this concept. I'm going to need to look into this. And you might spend 10 times more time than somebody who's experienced going into a CP. It might take you longer, but if you feel ready, there's nobody going to be able to stop you, you know?
I mean, that's everything with hacking, right? Like you don't understand a concept, you Google it, you keep Googling until you find the answer and it makes sense to you. But it's just, yeah, a lot of people ask, like, from my perspective, OSCP is a good place to get introduced to the offensive security mindset, but it's not going to be the end of it all. It's not going to show you everything that you learn. You're going to, at the end of the day, you have to be, wherever you are, whoever's taking the course, to have to take it in their own hands to go ahead and actually like take it to the next step, do more research on whatever they want to do, and get better at it, right?
Yeah, definitely. And that's why I think school is not really a good option either. Like for school, of course, you can learn some basic concepts in school,
Yeah,
but coming out of it, you're going to have to do your own research anyway. And if anything, school is going to teach you, it's that you're going to have to keep learning forever. It's never going to stop. And it's
yeah.
also something I really like about this field. Like, I don't know how you feel about this, but for me, one of my mindsets is to strive for eternal learning a little bit. It keeps me happy, it keeps my mind young, and I just don't like, you probably are a little bit like me, well, a lot like me, and a lot like other hackers as well. And in that, I think we just don't like sitting still and not learning anything new. And that's why, like, for me, bug bounties, it's really interesting, but I haven't been doing it as much recently because all I was looking for was broken access control in the end. So that's when I started to go and spend more time into actual research, looking into cross-site scripting a lot deeper, setting up my own Angular system and seeing if I can trigger a client-side template injection or anything like that. It's interesting, and it's good for bug bounties as well, because in the end of the day, if I'm going to encounter something Angular, it'll teach my mind already and prepare me for those tricks.
Yeah, I think it also brings me to the next question. Is I think it's just understanding what you're good at and what you're not good at, and what you want to learn in detail. and actually going after and doing it on their own. And there's so many books you can read, so many articles you can read until you actually go out there and do it. You said you set up your own Angular, labs to learn whatever it is. Do you think coding and knowing how to code is a big part of becoming a successful bug bounty hunter or hacker?
I think in bug bounties, there's a few ways that you can go. There's like many different targets out there. And some targets are network only. They give you a range of IP addresses. And of course, coding knowledge is going to be a little bit less important on those types of targets specifically. But in general, even there, if you want to enter a network properly, you're going to have to write some scripts in the end. And then even if it's just to, let's say, enumerate internal servers or something like that, that's not something you can do by hand, going and pinging all of those IP addresses. So you're going to have to know coding eventually. And especially for bug bounties that are focused around web applications, if you don't know how something works, it's a mystery to me that you're expecting to hack it. So it's always important to really understand the things you want to hack thoroughly. But I think you can get an entry into bug bounties for sure without having extensive programming knowledge. I think it's definitely not gonna.
What languages do you recommend for someone that wants to get into bug bounty and they want to learn? Anybody, even not even bug bounty, someone that wants to get into hacking. What programming languages do you recommend?
Oh, definitely. PHP is, even though a lot of people hate PHP and they do have their valid reasons for it, I think PHP is a big help because it's a lot of the applications still use PHP out there. And it's like, okay, if you want to know how to use, or if you want to know how to build a bad application, then PHP is also going to be the easiest because it's not going to stop you just running an exec in there and just throwing that thing online. So that's definitely helpful. But getting to thoroughly understand your client, your target is JavaScript, definitely. And also any of the templating engines coming out, like Angular, JS, Vue.js, those things, they're running rampant, but they're not investigated thoroughly because of the speed that they're coming out. So a lot of these targets have run to use these templating engines, nothing wrong with that, but they'll be unsure of how to use them exactly, or they don't understand the complete mechanism behind it. So,
so when we talked about the programming part of it, I agree. I think knowing how to, understanding how things work in the background is very, very helpful. In your, whether you're going to do bug bounties, you're going to get into hacking, whatever it is, it's going to be very helpful if you know how to do it. But I want to understand, like, as far as like gaining experience, do you play any CTFs? Do you what is your take on CTFs?
I love CTFs. I don't have enough time to play them, unfortunately. Okay. But I do think they train like a critical mindset. And it might be true that they're not directly going to train you in specific skills that you'll need out in the field or in bug bounties, but they're going to train you to look for those details. And that's something that matters a lot in bug bounties, like that one specific error message that's different than the rest, or that parameter that nobody's looked at. Those details are very important in bug bounties and in CTFs also.
What kind of CTFs do you recommend? Someone that wants to play, where would you tell them to start with CTFs?
Well, I really like 24/7 CTF. It's a website where you can go. The CTFs are always up. And the philosophy of the creator is to not release any solutions or any guides to his CTFs, and I really like that because it forces you to go and look for them yourself. You can't just look at a solution. I don't know if it's the right way to do it, but going back to OSCP real quick, when I was studying OSCP, I used to look at the forums for solutions, and I used to do it a lot because it was convenient. But then when my lab time finished, I noticed that I didn't properly understand my labs, and I had to go to Hack the Box to still practice it anyway, because otherwise you just don't pass that stuff.
Yeah, I think that having the solutions, it's helpful when you're really stuck and you've tried everything out. It's a good place to go and look at it. But if you're relying on those, I've done the same thing, like the same boat. I've bypassed it, completed it, but then I realized I didn't learn anything by doing that, right? But yeah, definitely having the solutions, it's a very good place to understand, okay, like I've tried everything. I really want to go to the next step. How have others done this? And you take it from there.
Definitely, yeah.
Do you
And
think
also,
CTF skills are transferable to hacking, especially with bug bounties?
to a degree, because of course there's the web challenges; those are really applicable to bug bounties.
Yeah.
But the things like cryptography might be a little bit less applicable already. There's things like stenography that's definitely not applicable. I haven't seen any target hide any messages in their images yet. I hope I do one day, but so yeah, there's definitely some parts of it which are transferable, but some parts which are also like, if you put a line in the middle of it, I think like 50% of the skills are at least transferable from the CTF.
Yeah, I agree. There's a difference between the fun CTFs that are made to be challenging and not, you learn stuff, but it's not realistic. It's just meant to be competitive. Those probably not the case, but there are some really good CTFs out there that do teach you some stuff, that's based on real vulnerabilities. It's based on real research. It's based on things you have seen online. I knew a lot of the conferences, especially like B-side San Francisco, the last year I went to, and I think I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, is they took one of the bugs that Donut and I had done and they put it on their web. This looks very familiar, but it can't be it. And then we realized, like, no, like there are CTFs are going down that route. They are becoming more interested in, creating CTF challenges that are based on real scenarios, right? And it's cool to see that. So I agree. Like not everything is going to be transferable. I mean, even with OSCP or anything else you take, right? You're going to learn some stuff, but it doesn't mean it's going to directly transfer over to your job or whatever you're going to be doing. So I definitely agree.
Yeah, like for any skill that you train on a job basis, like I've trained performance testing quite a lot, but there'll be like mobile performance testing modules, for example, which will be very applicable to my job. And then there'll be like web application, which is not applicable at the moment, but maybe
Yeah.
later on down the line, it'll still become applicable. That's also,
Yeah.
of course, a possibility. And it's good to hear that CTFs are going down that route, because previously I feared a little bit that CTFs were like, oh, people know this one trick, so I have to put this trick on trick on trick on
Hmm.
trick. It's like, yeah, everybody knows this trick already. So that's because that's the thing. The CTF community and the hacking community in general, it's not that big. It's definitely pretty tight knit. Like the CTFs, you always see the same groups of people going to the CTFs, and they do all of them, every single one that they can. And of course, you have like groups like our group, with like my Discord channel. We join a CTF every now and again. But yeah, definitely it's annoying because I've built CTFs before, and the thing is like, okay, people know these tricks already, so you
Yeah.
have to keep coming up with completely fresh stuff over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But
I think the basics of it all are the same. It's just a creativity portion of it that you have to figure out. How do you make this CTF, this one trick that you've seen that everybody knows? SSRF is a good example of it, right? Like everybody knows how SSRF works, but if you look at a lot of CTFs we do, when we host a CTF for Hacker 101, there's a lot of SSRF in there, but every time we have an SSRF, there is a trick. It's no longer just a filter system anymore. It would keep building on top of it just because we realize the CTF players are catching on to these techniques. So going to the next one. Next time you do DNS rebinding. Next time you do this, you combine all of them. But I like CTFs have been a good place. I think I always say, and every time I ask this question, I always say, if you want to see what you, let me start again. If you're joining cybersecurity, you want to find out what you're good at and you're passionate about, and what's your niche in cybersecurity, try a CTF. CTFs are going to teach you or show you what you really could be good at and what's your niche going to be in cybersecurity.
Yeah, that's definitely something that the CTFs have taught me as well. Like, oh, I really don't like cryptography, so
Yeah,
yeah,
you
the
stay away
moment I
from it,
can,
you learn.
definitely, yeah.
We talked about when we were talking about CTFs and we were talking about like certifications, CTFs, and that kind of stuff. You mentioned that you did, I think you said Try Hack Me. You mentioned Hack the Box. What are some other resources you used when you were, you were newer and you were getting into all this stuff? What were some of the other resources you used in order to get better at hacking and learning all these different concepts?
Okay, that's a pretty interesting one because I haven't seen this one floating around quite as much. But when I first started out, way back when I was just getting interested in hacking, I used hackthisite.org,
Yeah,
and
that's a
it's
good one.
I don't see it floating around quite often, and I really like it.
Yeah.
Then there's of course Pentester Lab as well,
Yep.
and VulnHub. That's one that I've used quite a lot to train for my OSCP as well. Um, what else?
Are you talking about the hack the site? Are you talking about the realistic challenges?
Yeah, exactly. Like I started out hack this site, and that's, by the way, I don't know if you know that website. Have I been pwned? But that's how my email first got leaked by hackthisite.org.
Oh no.
Quite funny. It's like, oh my God, guys, come on, hire a good blue teamer. No,
So you mentioned hack this site. You mentioned Pentester Lab. You mentioned Try Hack Me, Hack the Box, obviously, and all these other ones. Um, well, how do you learn something? And you see it. I seen someone in the chat saying Over the Wire and VulnHub. I want to highlight it. Over the Wire is a pretty decent one I've heard. VulnHub
oh
is really
yeah.
good. Boot to Root is really good. But how do you see a new research come out? There is a new technique that's came out and it's very popular amongst bug bounty hunters, right? How do you learn those? How do you get after those and learn how to find them, for example?
That's a pretty interesting one because I usually try and avoid everything that's popular.
Okay.
What do I mean by that is like the every single report that I've made is on old targets and things that have been around for quite a while because
Yeah.
I always look for things like functional bugs. I always look for things like business logic because my job, it just allows me to do it. I'm always looking for edge cases in my job.
Okay.
So I keep finding these broken access control things, but of course I select my target properly as well. I select it so that I have business to business targets with a lot of functionality in them, and then broken access control becomes a lot easier, of course, because usually there's an authorization module in there. But when there's something new out there that I really want to learn, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make an overview of it. I'm going to look up everything that's known about it, everything that's already out about it, because I want to, of course, spend my time on things that people are. I know it might not be the right thing to do, but the first thing I'm going to look for is for research that's been repeated a lot. So that way I know that those details are going to be correct.
Yeah.
Details that maybe one or two researching websites investigate or make note of, those are going to be things that I'm not going to look into, at least for the moment. But I start by making a plan, like, okay, this is everything that's known about it. Then I'm going to first look into this, then I'm going to look into that, then I'm going to look into that. Like, for example, if something new comes out about some version of jQuery, for example, then first of all, I'm going to need to make sure that I investigate that version of jQuery. Like, what's different from the one that I've been using, what's known about it.
Okay.
Because it's hard. I think you've noticed this as well. Like, learning new things is hard, and making a plan really helps me stick to it. Like, if I
Yeah.
have an overview of what's available, then making that plan is easier for me, and then sticking to it is gonna be even easier. And just some research is pretty like, I'm the kind of guy, if I don't care about something, I'll give up, I'll go do something else.
Yeah.
And if I find myself lost in a web of research and not knowing where to go next, that's something that makes me stop caring about things. I want a pretty detailed plan in my head of things, and that includes breaking them down into steps, and then how I'm going to go about those steps. And the thing is, if I don't have that for myself, I know that halfway through, I'm going to get entangled in my own head and in the chaos, and then I'm just gonna quit researching it, which for some topics is a pretty big shame, because they're pretty interesting things, but I never got around to them like I wanted to. Like Active Directory, for example. Active Directory is for me like an entanglement, a big web of different things that I try to look into, but by now there's just I should have just stuck to my original plan, making a research plan and dividing it into tasks, and then taking it chunk by chunk, so I don't get drowned in a mountain of work or in the own chaos that goes into my own head, you know.
Yeah, I agree. The planning thing is definitely helpful, but I always ask this question just because a lot of people want to learn different vuln types, but it's just more of a, I've read all these things, but what do I do
Yeah.
next? It's just going and getting hands-on experience. It's the biggest thing to do next.
Sure.
Did you say you still do bug bounties?
Yeah, I do. It's not a lot that I do it myself, because I also coach people and I usually let them hunt, and then I tell them, hey, this is how I would hunt here, this is how I would hunt here. So I still do it in a proxy kind of way.
How do you pick your targets?
That's a very interesting one, because a lot of my clients have the same question. And for me, it really depends on what kind of person they are. Do they
Yeah,
like to go broad scope or narrow scope? That's usually the first question I ask them. And then what type of vulnerability types they like, not which ones they're knowledgeable in, but ones they like. Like if
right.
you're going for a IDOR, for example, IDORs are pretty interesting in business to business applications, but you're not going to find a lot of them on things like a newspaper website. You might find maybe here and there you might find one of them, but you're not going to find it on these newspaper websites. Then the next thing I'm asked them usually is, okay, now that you know which bug type you like, can you think of, okay, how does this fit into, like, sorry, lost my train of thought there for a second.
That's all good.
So I when they pick their favorite vulnerability type, we try and pick the target together. But it's really important. Do you want to go vulnerability disclosure, or do you want to make money really, really,
Right.
really badly? Like some people, for me, I always recommend go vulnerability disclosure program,
Yeah.
at least to start out with, so you
Why?
can, because there's less competition. When hackers, when they see, oh, there's no money to be made here, not everyone, but a lot of them will leave. I've noticed that because I worked at a company and we had two programs on a popular bug bounty program. And one of them was responsible disclosure program. The other one was a application required but paid. And the amount of applications that we got on the paid program was insane. It was like nobody was hunting the responsible disclosure. But the good thing about the responsible disclosure one was that we had a lot of targeting scope. We put immediate broad scope on that because we cared less. If vulnerability got reported to us, we didn't have to pay as much. So
Yeah.
that's also something that you'll find a lot is vulnerability disclosure programs will have a lot more assets in scope. That's often the case. And then the last thing I ask people is, what do you want to do? Do you want to do web application, mobile, IoT? Do you want to do server hacking? That's also pretty important.
Yeah.
And of course, a lot of the vulnerabilities are going to be different, because of course you're not going to go and look for cross-site scripting on a server automatically. First you do a port scan and blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, like, a lot of these vulnerability types also do collide with each other. Like broken access control in a way is still broken access control. If you are doing things that you shouldn't be doing, that's that's not okay. If it doesn't matter if it's in a mobile phone API endpoint or if it's a web endpoint. And that's something I try to tell a lot of these people as well, is whenever you're hacking, 99% of the time you're going to be hacking an API, unless you're hacking a server specifically. But most of these things, they're going to be made out of APIs that you're attacking or hacking,
Yeah.
because all of these mobile apps, all of these websites, they need something to communicate back to. So if you learn API hacking or server hacking, you're going to have a lot of the vulnerabilities already down. And then you can still look for client-side specific vulnerabilities, of course. You can still learn a lot more about that. But in general, it's going to be shared quite a lot between different platforms.
Yeah, you mentioned API hacking a few times, and I see people in the chat want to know about API hacking. We don't have to get too into it just because I know it's a very long conversation. And also, if you've watched interview last week with Alyssa Knight, we did some API discussion. She's very well known for API hacking, so check that out also when it comes out on YouTube. But I want to hear from you also. The same thing is, do you have any resources for API hacking that are out there that you recommend? And B, at a high level, what's your recommendation on approaching an API?
As for resources on learning how to hack an APIs, I would definitely just recommend to build one and then just try and see all of the things that it can fail. Now, of course, you're going to miss quite a lot of the things, but that's a big start for me, is just trying to build an API. And I was trying to, for example, emulate an IDOR, and it taught me quite a lot about just building APIs as well.
Yeah.
And then for hacking them specifically, it's quite hard to find good resources on hacking APIs. I'm not the right authority to speak on that, I think, so I don't have much to say on it either. I thought there were so little good resources that I found that I made my own resource for it.
How do you approach an API? Or like when you're doing bug bounties, if you were to break it down in 3 different categories, what would you do when it comes down to looking for API hacking? Like, how would you approach a API-dev.site.com? You see it. What do you do?
So the first thing is, of course, the content discovery. I'm going to be looking for documentation, any kind of docs / documentation / docs. I have a word list that has documentation related words on it. So that's what I'm going to be looking on first.
Okay.
Then, of course, if I find something like, let's say I find a Swagger or something like that, first things first, I'm going to throw that in my Postman so it's easier to work with. And if the API is not available in Postman, then I need to rebuild it. Like whatever I encounter, if I encounter a call, then I need to throw it in my Postman. If there's no known calls about it, then I need to do some more content discovery first, see if I can get some calls, of course.
Right.
But it's important to know, first of all, what kind of calls are going to this server and what are they looking like? How can I, like, if, for example, if you have a resource to look at documents, to handle the object documents, you have your create, you have your read, you have your update. Then let's say I have the method available for a read, but I'm testing for IDORs there. Okay, then I'm going to try changing up the HTTP method to see if I do have an IDOR that way. Because of course you can change your identifier, but just changing your identifier, that's something that a lot of people are going to be known with. Like a lot of developers, they know, okay, let's say they have a get call, and the get call, they know I have to protect this properly. Then I'm going to be trying to be making it into a post call and seeing if the server accepts that request as well. Often those things are going to be less protected. Second thing I'm going to be trying is if I'm on version 2 of the APIs, I'm going to try to attack version 1 of the API, for example, because that might have a lot of endpoints which are a lot less protected as well. And what I always try as well is I try version 3. I know that it might be a little bit a shot in the dark, but I have found an API while I was pen testing, admittedly, that had a version 3 that was in development, and nobody they did know about it, but they didn't know that it got into production. And it shouldn't have never made it into production, of course, because there were some really big security flaws in there. But those are the types of things that I'll test for usually.
I think the version thing is really, really interesting. You know, when you're in a V2, you try to see if this endpoint works in V1. How does it look in V1? Or maybe V3 or other way, on V1, you see if there is a V2 coming out. That's really interesting to do. What I know there's a question that came in the chat that was about you know, when you say you content discovery, what tools do you use for content discovery?
I use Burp Suite because at Burp Suite Pro, I just use content discovery there usually. I think it's pretty solid. The only thing that it does do is that it launches a little bit too much requests. So I usually have to, because the default configuration is that it looks for everything, ASPX files, PHP files, it looks for everything. Even if you're running on an API, it will still look for this file. So you have to tone it down a little bit, and you have to tell it a little bit more specifically what to look for, in my opinion, so it doesn't launch as much requests. But what I also really like is FUF. FUF is also really good because it's really easy to configure, but it's also really fast. Now, I might be a little bit behind with the times there. This might be old tools already. Things go fast, so
I think FUF is definitely a good place to start, because I mean, it's the same thing with Burp. You can do the same thing with Burp Suite, right? You can go to Intruder and do the same thing as FUF.
Yeah. And thing is, like, not a lot of people know this, but the OAuth Zap, they have a content discovery as well that's free. And what you can do is you can set the proxy of Zap to Burp Suite, and that way you can catch your spidering traffic as well in Burp Suite. So it's a little bit of a life hack.
Yeah, I think no matter what tool you use, they all do the same thing, dude. If you do Zap, if you do Burp Suite, if you do FUF, or I think people are saying Ferox Buster, sorry, not Buster, Buster, and yeah, if you know how to use them, they all do the same thing. You can do FUF, you can do Intruder on Burp Suite to fuzz for a endpoint, and then fuzz for a parameter, and fuzz for a response. You can do all of that no matter what tool you use. It's just understanding what you're looking for is what matters the most, I think. Do you do recon?
Not a lot. It's not something I enjoy. I'm more of a narrow scope kind of guy. I do know how to do recon. I found I think 6 or 7 recon bugs. But that's mostly content discovery, funny enough. Doing things like brute forcing login directory discovery on the login pages. So it's recon, in my opinion, is very interesting in that a lot of people have adapted this same mindset, because I've told you I have a lot of clients that I see, and these people, all of them want to do recon, and all of them want to do it exactly the way Jason Haddix does, or you do it. So it's funny because I don't know, like, if a lot of people are doing the same thing, all you can expect is duplicates, in my opinion. So,
to be clear, I don't do a lot of recon. I think people I've seen, the recon I do is super at a high level. It's not so much that I'm monitoring anything. It's just what assets are coming up, you know, the latest assets, or what assets look interesting to me, and trying to find things that other people don't hack on. Not so much that I look for recon bugs. Like, I don't go find obscured, you know, folders and files. It's just I find a marketing site that looks interesting. Okay, let's see if we can shell this thing. But I think a lot of people are just too focused on the easy automated bugs versus wanting to do the actual hacking. I have a video on this I'm going to hopefully explain at some point, but it's just more of a, yeah, you can be good at recon, but you're not going to find any bugs if you don't know your vulnerability types. If you don't know how to look for an SSRF, you're not going to find any bug, no matter how good you are at finding, discovering assets or discovering content on them. You need to learn how to do these vuln types before you think about recon. I think people do it backwards. People go do recon before they know how to hack. It shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, definitely. And something that I found really interesting in the content discovery or in the recon space is vhost discovery.
Yeah.
It's something I don't think a lot of people focus on, and I think it's got a lot of potential for new domains or assets to pop up.
Yeah.
Because like everybody knows subdomain enumeration, everybody's doing it, and the thing is, it's just about which sources you use these days, it seems like. Because all of the tools are the same anyway. But for vhost discovery, I haven't found that much out there.
I think FUF is a good job for vhost discovery. If you have a list of assets, FUF is a good job. But I want to also come back to something really quick. I think you're absolutely right about, the thing that I've seen this exact sentence a bunch of times on Twitter is if you're looking at the same techniques as everybody else, there's going to be nothing but duplicates. That's 100% an accurate thing to say. I think the whole thing with hacking, I think hacking is the idea, the creativity you come up to think outside the box to approach things. And if you're copying everybody else's work, first of all, if you're going to copy my work, you're going to be behind. The things that I put out, I'm not gonna, and I think I'm open about it. I'm not gonna come up with my newest research on Twitch. So if I put something on Twitch, I've probably already done it a bunch of times. Same thing with other hackers. If someone writes a blog post on this particular technique, they've probably milked it already. So the chances of you finding those things is going to be a duplicate. However, if you learn these things and then you tweak it a little bit and you add some more tricks to it, that's a different story, right? Then you became more unique. So that's taking it to the next level. It's becoming more creative. The art of hacking isn't just knowing how to find bugs. It's how to, I always tell people, how do I make this application? What does this application do? How do I make it do the things it's not supposed to do?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can answer that question, it's easier, right?
Yeah, and like a stupid example, a while ago I was hunting and I completely milked this program by IDORs by just copying the JavaScript method and then pasting it in the console of the other guy and then just changing the identifier. First of all, real quick, how I test my IDORs is I log in as two people and I see if I can grab the other people's the other icons. Yeah. And the reason I do that is because I often test in production environments and I don't want to fill in random numbers there. So recently I was hunting and I was filling in my other accounts numbers into the JavaScript methods. And for some reason I got IDOR after IDOR after IDOR. And I was like, why is this firing so much IDORs? This is so insane. And it turned out that those specific methods for using a subdomain that was not specifically mentioned as in scope, but it was a broad scopes program. The thing was that it wasn't a broad scope program, I mean a narrow scope program, but what people didn't realize is that you have URL in your scope section, and then there was a little remark saying, oh, and our API resides on this, blah, blah, which is also in scope. But it was a little remark, so I felt like, is everybody missing this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
You have to look at details and think outside of the box a little bit.
Attention to detail is it's a big part of it. Even with when not to go back to the HackerOne CTFs, but with the CTFs, one of the biggest aspects of all of our CTFs that we host is attention to details, small details. There are some small things that we put some places that leads you to get to the next flag or the next functionality. And a lot of people seem to miss that. I've literally had a few CTFs where there's the flag that we name each flag, and one of them is called attention to detail, to see if people are paying attention to the small things we put on these sites. Especially when a CTF happens, the CTF creators create things on purpose. The way they do it is to give you a hint. And if you're not paying attention to those small little things, you're not going to get to the next. It's the same thing with bug bounties. If you don't pay attention to the website's behavior because you add an extra character, you added an extra symbol, you're not gonna find those vulnerabilities, and you're gonna miss it, and the next person's gonna find it, and then you're gonna learn a very hard lesson next time to look at it in more details, right?
Oh, yes. Sorry to hijack your story
No,
over
you're
there.
the guest here, man. You're welcome to speak as however you like, my friend. You're welcome to do whatever you like. You're the guest for this episode.
Like, I don't know if you've encountered this, but what I've encountered before is when I was hunting, I got like maybe 4 or 5 books which were very, very similar, but just in different parts of the website or something like that. And then two of them turned out to be a duplicate. And I'm like, if only you would have paid more attention, if only you would have tried everything, you'd have hit 4 or 5 extra bounties, but I'll take it. That's no problem.
Yeah.
I'll take their money. So yeah,
I think with like, going back to originally what you said, like with hacking, with bug bounties, I think anything in life, man, it's a never ending learning journey. And it's the same thing. When you miss a bug, you miss something, at least you learn. As long as you learn from that mistake is what matters. There's been a number of times I've looked at a target, I found a bunch of bugs, and then somebody else finds a bug in a functionality that I was testing. It fucking happens. But I learned, I'm like, oh crap, I shouldn't have looked over this thing. I shouldn't have assumed this thing is invulnerable. And it becomes a part of your next testing methodology. The next time you test another site that has similar functionality or similar vibes, whatever it is that it is, a similar website, you understand you have to look for those. But I think learning from those mistakes is what is very, very valuable. It's not, you have 2 options when you miss a bug, and you see a write-up come out, it's a bug that you missed. You have 2 options. You can be sad about it to yourself, you can throw a pity party for yourself, or 2, you can learn that you missed it and you're not going to miss it ever again the next time. Most people go with option 1, unfortunately.
Yes, definitely. And I have been guilty of that myself. I'm not going to lie. I've had instances where I was like, oh, I should have seen it, and I'll be mad at myself for 2 or 3 days, which I shouldn't be, because like you say, it's all about learning. And it's also important for me to not just go, because for me, learning, it's a little bit like every topic that you learn has this strange learning curve where you learn a lot in the beginning, and then after a while you have to start putting in more and more and more attention to learn new things, and that's where things get interesting, because that's where most people quit, in my opinion. And yeah, it's all about just pushing through, even though it hurts. And
I mean, we're all millennials, right? We want the instant gratification. We want things immediately, overnight. We want it quick. We want it tomorrow. I want to make money from bug bounty tomorrow. That's not how it works. It's never gonna work that way.
Oh yeah, my first few reports are terrible, and I'm not afraid to admit it either. Like, the first report that I made was like, ID should not be sequential, because I saw the pen testers at my company do it, but I fell flat on my face. It even got so bad that I got negative karma on HackerOne, which kind of drove me away from there at the moment, but that was my own stupid mistake. I shouldn't have reported so many bad bugs. And then, it's just a matter of life, you just learn from it, you move on.
Yeah, I agree. It's just more of a learn from your mistakes. No matter what you do, if you learn from mistakes, and I always say this, compare yourself to 3 months ago. If you've done better the last 3 months than the 3 months before it, then you're on the right path. You said you have clients, you coach people. What about yourself? Do you have mentors? Did you have anybody that mentored you directly or indirectly? Anyone that you looked up to? Anyone that helped you directly or indirectly to become better at what you were doing, or helped you learn the things that you wanted to learn?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like right now, Brute Logic is somebody that I have a lot of contact with. We talk a lot about cross-site scripting and that kind of stuff. Okay. But I think like having a mentor or having somebody who's going to guide you is only good in a few instances, because, like, for example, the clients that I take, I make sure that they're maybe 1 or 2 steps behind the position where I'll put it differently. Like, I made sure that Brute Logic is like maybe 2 or 3 steps in front of where I want to be in a few years.
Right.
Like I made sure that there's not this huge difference in between where we want to be, because I really don't want to. And it's the same for my clients. I make sure that they're like a few steps behind where they want to be. Like it's really important to me that that's something that, and of course somebody, and I broke this rule myself, but somebody who's local is also the best mentor in my opinion. Somebody who you can always go to and don't have to wait for a phone call or whatever, you know. That's something.
I think mentorship is it goes two ways. It's more, this is personally how I look at it. It's a direct and indirect mentorship. I've had direct mentorship where it didn't really do much. It showed me the way. I've been public about it. I've tweeted about who were my mentors back when I first started, both on a corporate position and hacking. There's also the indirect one. There is people that I have read their blog posts. I'm like, we're inspiring, and I'm like, okay, I want to be this guy. I want to be better than this guy. And then you put your heart into it and you get there. But I think it's what you said about finding someone that's like 2-3 steps ahead of you is very important, because you're not going to learn anything from someone you're going to learn from them. If someone that knows as much as you do, you're going to learn their way, but you're going to hit a ceiling. You're going to hit the max amount of things you can learn from them, and it's going to go away eventually.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, you're going to learn together, and it's going to be fun in the beginning, and everything's fine and dandy. But eventually, there's going to come a point where one is going to learn faster than the other, who wants to go and get dragged behind a little bit. And that's not the kind of feeling you want to have in a mentor-mentee kind of a relationship.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. You just need to find someone that could bring value to you and you can learn from them. But also, you don't always need a mentor. Depends on what you're trying to do. Sometimes you do. You need someone that could just guide you. They don't have to be even in the field that you're getting into. They may just have a lot of more life experience than you do, and they've done big things in their lives that it's similar to what you want to do, but in a different field, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like there's this one guy I knew a few years ago. His name was Jaap, and the guy, like when I had my daughter, he was guiding me and telling me like, listen up, bro. The first thing you have to realize is that whatever you do, your daughter is going to come first now. That's going to be your first thought. And it's those kinds of things is some I needed to be told that by somebody when I was starting out as a father, you know. And
Yeah.
it's like you say, in all parts of life, definitely important.
Yeah, I think with the I can't speak to parenthood, but I think it's important to have someone tell you like what to expect. Not that you're not gonna have the same experience as them, but someone that's gone through it and has raised a kid, they could probably give you some good advice, things to avoid, how to not want to bang your head against the wall when things get rough, and how to handle those things, right? It's the same thing with any aspects of life. You want to make sure you have someone that could guide you. It doesn't have to be that. I don't think anyone can tell you what to do in life to be successful. They can only provide you advice and guidance on how to get there. The rest is up to you to do.
Yeah, definitely. That's something I've realized from like quite a few years ago. Like I'm quite open about this. I used to be quite bad of a junkie a few years ago,
Yeah.
and like these people, there were these people who were clean a lot longer than me before, and who had side bags, who had seen it all. And just having them around and surrounding myself by people who were able to guide me and help me a little bit whenever times got tough, that's something that was important as well.
Yeah.
Like
On the topic of since things are getting a little real in the conversation, I usually like to end the interviews with some more personal topics. Usually I talk a lot about mental health, and I want to kind of talk to you about that same stuff, because I think we've kind of gone through that. We're moving towards that conversation a little bit. Do you deal with imposter syndrome at all?
Oh yeah, daily, and I think quite justified because I make a lot of mistakes as well. But for me, it's been important to realize to myself that I make mistakes and I'm going to keep making them forever. There's never going to be an end, and there's always going to be somebody that's better than me. And for me, like, I just stopped worrying about it because it became maddening, to a degree. I don't know if you've experienced the same thing, but it almost
Every
drove
day.
me
Yeah.
insane.
How do you deal with it though? How do you stop it from driving you insane?
I just don't let it anymore. I just tell myself, yeah, of course you made a mistake. Of course you're probably not good enough to do this, but neither are any of the other people doing this, to be honest. Like,
Yeah,
everybody
none of
has
us
the
know what the
same
fuck we're
feeling.
doing. Yeah, none of us know what
Yeah,
we're doing.
exactly. Like, you sell a course as well. For me, like, people have told me that I shouldn't be selling my course because I don't have enough experience and all of that stuff. And that's made me feel quite inadequate. I'm not gonna lie, I've thought about removing it for quite a while. But the thing is, like, I shouldn't, like, I let the product speak for itself. That's one thing, but also is like that self-doubt. It's something that I shouldn't give into. I can't give into it anymore as a father. Like, a few
Mhm.
years ago, I had that option, I had that possibility, but right now, whenever I give into that imposter syndrome, I just stop working. I don't do anything anymore, and it's not the right mentality. It's not the place I need to be in.
So I'm gonna be honest. I don't know much about your experience, so I can't speak to that. Like I can't say they're right or wrong, but who cares? But there's a few things I'm gonna address. One is I get told not to sell my course because that's not good enough.
Damn.
And I've done I not to say, I'm one of the best hackers out there. I'm not, but I've done enough work to know, the things that I've taught in my course are things that I understand. I'm not putting anything that I don't understand in my course, right? But yeah, I get told my course is shit. This is why I don't check my Twitter replies anymore. This is why I don't reply and interact with people anymore. They've ruined the interaction for me. It's the trolls. You can't feed the trolls. The trolls are there for that exact reason. They're there to the way I look at trolls and the people that are negative like that is people that are creating content are doing the thing that they wish they could do.
That's
Plain and
something to.
simple. But
Yeah.
about the imposter syndrome, where you asked me if I deal with it, yes, there's a few things. Two things I want to say. One is if you're smart, if you are the smartest person in the room, there's two things wrong with that. Either you're full of shit, or B, you're in the wrong room.
I
You're
like
hanging out with the
that.
wrong people, right? The second thing is, yeah, I think imposter syndrome is good. It tells you need to do better. You,
Yeah.
again, it goes back to the thing that I said earlier. You can either throw yourself a pity party, or two, you can do something about it, right? If you're dealing with imposter syndrome, yeah, go ahead, throw yourself a pity party. Go be sad for yourself. Go be sorry for yourself. It's not gonna do anything for you. It's gonna just train you mentally. But if you say, okay, I don't know, I don't know as much as these guys. I go to live hacking events, and I'm in a room with 60 hackers that are making thousands that day, and I don't know anything compared to them. But it doesn't. I don't let it go. I used to let it get to my head, and I'll be like, oh well, I'm not good enough. But then I'll be like, no, I don't know. I know things that they don't know because they come and ask me for help sometimes. But there's also things that I don't know that I want to learn, and I go and learn it. There's a fix for it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like you say, if you feel like you're inadequate at something, that's probably for a reason. You should probably go and spend some time on it, see if you can improve in it or not. Like
Yeah,
for, sorry,
no, go ahead.
like for cross-site scripting, for example, there's so much to learn about cross-site scripting. It's incredibly deep and diverse because, first of all, it's not just JavaScript like most people think.
Yeah.
And second of all, there's so many different contexts that your reflection can appear into that it's just insane to think about, because people know about HTML tag insertion, of course, but if you talk about tag attribute insertion, that's going to be a bit differently. Not a lot of people have heard about that. And JavaScript context, that's a lot. That's going too far for a lot of people. But they still want to learn about cross-site scripting, and they're like, I don't know JavaScript, but I still want to learn. Yeah, that's good, but eventually you're gonna hit a ceiling, and you're gonna have to learn it anyway.
I agree. It's yeah, I don't want to keep going into this, but at the end of the day, there's a fix for everything. So if you don't like what you're dealing with, go fix it. But imposter syndrome's gonna always be there, especially with what we do, especially in the age of social media, where everything is fake. Everyone just highlights the best part of their lives. I don't want to say everyone, but most people just want to say how awesome they are, how good their life is. Everyone's gonna feel imposter syndrome. It's a part of life now, I think.
Oh yeah, and it definitely doesn't help if you, for example, if you've been hunting for a couple of days or like a week and you haven't found anything, and then people on Twitter will be like, "Hey, it's my favorite bug bounty hunter," and you'll be like, "Shut up, just shut up."
Yeah, I understand, man. But everyone deals with it. If people that say they don't
Yeah.
deal with imposter syndrome, I don't buy it. If they don't deal with it, good for them. But I don't. I don't buy it. Next, I want to ask you is about burnouts. Do you deal with burnouts?
I haven't recently. I have in the past,
Okay.
when I was still a programmer. Funny enough, I've had two burnouts, which I've had to recover from for a couple of months,
Right.
actually. It was because I was never feeling like I could live up to my clients' expectations.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about 100K a year contracts, then that becomes a big deal. So I got really tired of it and I just didn't want to come out of bed anymore.
How do you deal with burnouts when you see a burnout coming up? How do you deal with it?
Well, it's very important to see it coming up. That's the first thing, to realize
Yeah.
when a burnout is coming. A lot of people won't recognize this at themselves, but it starts with, for me at least, when I stop wanting to eat as like I used to. And the thing is, I always eat very well. I eat like 2 plates every day because I just love food. But there comes a time when I just stop eating properly, and then I know, oh, that's the first warning sign. And if I keep pushing, then I'll start losing sleep at first, and then I'll start wanting to keep sleeping more and more and more until there comes a point where I just don't want to come out of bed anymore and just don't even want to do the chores and don't even want to take care of the baby. Like
That's really interesting. I'm noticing that I do like I've never realized this that the days that I'm burning out is the days I sleep the most. I usually wake up really early, besides when I'm sick, obviously, but I'm realizing as you say this, like, holy shit, yeah, there's times when I don't want to get out of bed. And it could be partially because of the burnout.
yeah, it's definitely something to be very cautious about as well, because of course, like we've been lucky enough to get out of it, but I've known people that have been stuck in burnout phase for like 2 years plus.
Uh,
It's like, yeah, these people still have to get their housework done and their chores, and it's like, poor them. It
yeah.
was not nice.
Um, do you have a routine for your daily, like day to day? Do you have something that you do every day to get your day started, and then, or is it just not planned like that?
It depends. Usually, when it's the weekday, because we all work at home still, I get to get up at like 9 a.m. Then I bring my baby to my parents' house, so I get to do my day job.
Okay.
And then I do that until about 5 p.m. So at that time, I get off, I go and grab the baby, and I play with her until she goes to bed, and we just have some fun family time. And then from like 8 till like 4 a.m., I'll be working on my own company, creating some resources for speaking events and all of that stuff.
No.
I'm doing some bug bounties, learning for myself. And then I know it's not healthy, but at around 4 a.m., I go back to sleep every day. And really should be careful with that, because that's also something that leads to burnout, is not sleeping enough.
Yeah, prioritize your sleep, man. If it's one advice I can give you from someone that's done the same stuff, prioritize your sleep. When it's you want to sleep 8 hours, at least get 8 hours, 7 hours a day. If you know you have to be up by, I wake up at 6:30, so by 10:30 I close the laptop, slam it down, I'm done. Um, but
Yeah,
just prioritize it, man. It helps. It helps your mental health a lot.
definitely. Yeah, and it also physical health, because I have fibromyalgia, and the thing is,
Yeah.
like, it's like a catch-22. I can't sleep because of the pain, and because I sleep so bad, I get more pain. So it's like,
Rough,
come
man.
on, give me a break.
Sorry to
But
hear that,
yeah,
man. But yeah, sleep is one of the things that I learned. It's very important. And ever since I
definitely.
started sleeping more, I've realized my head's been a lot clearer. Um, I'm gonna open up the chat for some questions. We have a few more minutes. I'm gonna open up chat for a question. I don't know if I'm gonna get to all of them, but chat, if you have a specific question, throw it in right now. Usually, I haven't played this game in a while. I'm gonna throw a word at you. I'm gonna say one word. Just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. Um, what do you think about when I say these words? Okay, it's just a fun game that I haven't played in a while. Um, so I'll start with cheese.
Cheese, Gouda. I really love Gouda cheese, man. That's the best cheese ever.
Bug bounty,
Money.
hacking,
Same thing. Um, Computers.
brute logic,
XSS.
XSS,
JavaScript. That's bad.
CTF,
Cryptography.
and
Left
last but
scarves.
not least, OSCP.
Certificates.
Okay. Let's see. I want to look at the questions really quickly. Why did he choose XSS to be his favorite?
Why my favorite is XSS? It's because of the depth and the complexity that goes into that specific issue type. And until recently, it was quite prevalent in the OWASP top 10 as well, which is also why I really liked it. I heard that cross-site scripting was everywhere, so I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's definitely something I didn't want to look into. But looking into it, I realized how complex and how in-depth it really was. So that kind of led me onto that trail.
What's your advice for someone that's watching this and they want to get started in bug bounties in 140 to 240 characters? Like a tweet, like a short advice you want to give to someone that's new to bug bounty and hacking.
Uh, Choose VDP, look at what others are doing and adapt, and don't look at the WASP top 10.
Well, the new one looks pretty good. I saw SSRF finally
Yeah,
made it into the OWASP top 10, but yeah, don't come in with a pen tester thinking. It's
yeah,
different. Yeah.
that's definitely better wording for it. Like the thing is, like, don't try and report insecure design in a bug bounty scenario.
Bug bounties are about impact more than anything.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Before I say goodbye to you, Matt, do you have anything you want to add? Anything you want to say to people that are watching, people that are going to be watching this later on YouTube? Anything you want to add before we jump off this call?
Maybe real quick, like, of course, there are going to be a lot of people that you're going to be looking up to, but those people are like you. And just don't be afraid to take the leap and just go in and dive straight in, make mistakes, fall flat on your face, and get up again. That's how everybody does it. And we all think, every single one of us that's doing this, I think, thought to themselves, I can't do this. Nowhere in a million years can I do this. And
Yeah,
if you think to yourself, I'm the best thing ever, then there's probably something wrong with you.
I agree. Just remember that everyone's human at the end of the day. We all go through the same stuff. No one's perfect.
Definitely, yeah. Thanks a lot for having me. I really
Of course, man.
appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to join me. I know it's late your time. It's a Sunday night for you, so I appreciate you being here. Thanks again, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks a lot. See you later, my friend.
See
Bye,
you, dude.
everybody.
See ya. All right, that's it. I want to quickly, before everybody leaves, hold on, don't leave yet. We have plans. I'm not leaving yet. I gotta say thank you to Nagli, Security B, OX Prototype, NPC number 0, 916 Junglist, Superhero with the 5 tier 1 gifts, Dark Realm, Grooty or Groot, Noxious, Leorak, everybody that's up today. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys so much. Let's go. And what we're going to do is we are going to raid chat. And I need you to represent the Nahomies when we go into this new channel. So don't leave. If you're going to leave after the raid. Let's raid somebody new. Yes, that's it. I'm out. I may start streaming more. I'm going to be traveling for a little bit. but I'm going to be streaming while I travel, so I might be live more. I have some really cool stuff I want to experiment with. But other than that, I love you. I'll see you at ActivityCon on Saturday. Take care of yourself. Be nice to each other. Come hang out on Discord. I'll be around. And when we raid, we got to represent Nahomies loud and clear. Let's go.